Welcome to Mount Panorama. My name is Kelvin Roper of the Jsra and I will be your guide for this track walks. This series has been developed by the Jsra to help drivers become acquainted with the many tracks we visit virtually. Today I'll be sharing some tips on how to be fast around each of the 23 corners of this 6.2 kilometer track. Let's get started. A lap of Mount Panorama begins on a short start-finish straight, heading into a 90-degree left-hander. Position the car as rightmost as possible, braking at 75 meters and trail braking into the apex of the corner. Quickly jump back on the throttle, using all of the curb on the exit. Careful not to brake too late going into T1, also known as Hell Corner, for its frequent crashes, as a good exit is essential heading onto the 1.1 kilometer long mountain straight. Turn 2 can be tricky, especially when in close proximity to other cars. It's an off-camber corner, so the car may want to wash wide away from the ideal line. It's important to find the right braking and turning point here. Brake around where the access road on the left is, earlier or later depending on your driving style. Don't maintain full braking pressure for too long as you're braking uphill, so the car will slow down quicker than normal. Trail braking is essential through turn 2 to ensure the car settles into the proper groove on the inside line. Avoid touching the curb and power out of the corner, going as close up to the wall as you dare on exit. Move the car back to the left-hand side of the track, then back to the right, and turn in for turn 3 at the gap in the barrier, allowing the car to understeer past the wall on the inside. This should position the car for the longest, straightest possible braking zone as you head into turn 4. Brake in as straight a line as possible and release the brakes slowly, allowing the car to turn into turn 4. Gently apply the throttle while opening the steering to avoid oversteer and make the track as straight as possible as you approach T5. Coming up to Griffin's Mount, allow the car to drift back to the left-hand side and prepare to fling the car into the right-hander of Reed Park as soon as you pass the tree. Understeer just past the wall on the right side and narrowly avoid the wall on the left on exit. Mount Panorama is best known for its tight, twisty layout and unforgiving walls. However, if you aren't scraping the walls, you aren't going fast enough. Move back to the left-hand side of the track as you crest the hill and approach Solomon Park, a very fast and very tricky left-hander. Turn in early, raising the apex and feathering the throttle throughout the bend. Again, bravery is required to run out as close to the wall as possible on exit to be fast at this track. That sequence very quickly leads into McPhillamy Park. Dab the brakes as you crest the bump and turn in, eyeing the curb on the inside. It may look as though you're heading for the wall, but you should just miss it and get a nice run going into Skyline. Up next is the challenging downhill complex, a series of sharp switchbacks, each leading into the next. You kinda have to get it right from the beginning and keep the momentum going into each corner, scrubbing off as little speed as possible. Precision is key. Position the car as leftmost as possible. Get right up against the wall. Quickly but gently apply the brakes and turn in, making the first corner as straight as possible to minimize chances of locking the brakes while braking downhill. Ride the curb and increase braking pressure as you approach the second right-hander and trail off the brake to get rotation into the last of the S's before the dipper. For the dipper, release the brakes completely and turn in early and quickly to coerce the car to understeer just past the wall on the inside. Get right on the power and straight line the exit as best as possible to keep minimum speed up. All this happens very quickly, so practice, practice, practice until you nail it. Next up is Forest's Elbow. Keep the car to the left, stab the brakes and turn in sharply, trail braking to get the front end to rotate nicely back over to the right, going down the hill into the elbow. Turn in early and trail brake to keep the car stable as you drop down through the corner. Be patient on corner exit. If you get back on the throttle too early, you'll go into the wall. But if you take too long, you'll lose time on the long back straight. If you get it right, move up through the gears on the backstretch, staying to the left of the track. Coming up to the right-hand kink, Drift over to the shoulder which appears to widen the track and input less steering angle heading into the chase. Heavy braking in a straight line at the 100-meter board, trailing off as you approach the final board. Avoid the curb on the inside and gently squeeze back onto the throttle to avoid losing the rear end on exit. Pass the pit entry lane and position the car to the right-hand side as you approach the final corner. Brake at the 100-meter board and trail brake into the corner, avoiding the raised curb on the inside. Then it's a short run to the line to complete a lap of the world-famous Mount Panorama circuit. In GT4 cars, such as this Mercedes-AMG GT4, the car being used for the inaugural Peak Performance 7-round series, streaming live on Sportsmax and Twitch, pros aim for a target lap time of around 2 minutes 11 seconds, 0.9. Pro-Am times are around 2 minutes 13.4, and amateur times range anywhere from 2 minutes 16 seconds upwards. Now, let's see what a full lap of the Mount Panorama circuit looks like.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, viewers, motorsports and gaming fans, to the Peak Performance Series 2023, Season 1. My name is Chad Dillon, alongside me, Mr. Andrew Swens and Sensei Rory. Gentlemen?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Spence, as he said. It's always a pleasure to be alongside my co-host, the hoster with the motor. Switched up here, so I did there, yeah, man. General Rory, as usual, here to give us the insight and the knowledge as we progress through this race, ins and outs. He has live experience with actual racing, so he's only a great addition to this team tonight.
Well, I understand throwing out the first Mozart shout out early. I like it. Yes, so this is our Peak Performance Series, as mentioned, our first season with the JEI, and we thank the JEI for being partnering with us on this series where the drivers are competing for their share of 100,000 Jamaican dollars. And we have had 3 exciting rounds thus far. This is round 4, and we have many sponsors, namely Domino's, Digicel Plus, and Sportsmax. To name a fair few there, we will be shouting them out as we progress through the broadcast. Rory, anything to kick us off?
Just want to thank you as usual for having me. I was not here for the last event. Unfortunately, I knew we were up against ironically, the strength of Red Bull and their marketing media empire. So I'm hoping that, I know that we'll do a lot better this weekend than the last event. So again, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. Gotta thank Stephen for putting up with me and being part of the broadcast. And of course, yes, we have a new sponsor, as you can see by the Mark Anthony Eden Scars, Moser Racing. JSRA, in its commitment to giving Jamaica the best, has gone forward, and we're now the official dealers. JSRA is now the official dealers for Moser Racing sim gear. So you can, as I think you said last night, come here, get your equipment, or you can come here and train and be even better than you can.
Absolutely. As mentioned, we are seeing Mark Anthony Eaton sporting a logo representative of the Moser brand, and that shows, the level of sponsorship.
And we also have to thank AM Designs, who beautifully designed these cars for us. So they're amazing. They look absolutely spectacular.
Definitely. We are in for some exciting racing this evening, as based on the times we have seen posted throughout the week and in free practice yesterday, I mean, we got quite a fair bit of trading fast times last night in the practice session. It just seemed to be one big proving session, which we were enjoying here from the commentary booth. I mean, it was spectacular to watch. I mean, Mitchen at the top, then Mark at the top, then Jane at the top, and we didn't even have Kurt Moss in the mix.
Yes.
So more excitement to come, I'm sure, and the racing will be spectacular this evening. I am very excited for what is to come.
And I wasn't, as I said, I wasn't here for the event. But even though I tell people, even though I'm not here in spirit, I watch these things. I will watch the replay. I have been watching from Red Bull Ring, and I've been watching our Chaser Pace last weekend, and I watched the practice yesterday. So we're going to have some. I said there's going to be some racing, and I have my own some theories that we're going to be discussing as we go along through the program.
Absolutely, and as Rory mentioned, this track, Mount Panorama in Australia, is also the track that we used in Chase or Pace, or series that runs conjointly with Peak Performance in last week's race. And if the action we got out of Chase or Pace repeats itself here tonight, we will not be shy of content to discuss. But the racing will be great, and the track itself lends itself to incidents taking place and things happening that will be sure to garner excitement and adrenaline, to say the least.
To say how this is going to go is that there are literally no track limits. There are no track cuts turned on. Because if you make a mistake at this track, the only thing you're cutting is your throat.
That is a fair assessment.
There is no need to have the track limits on here. You're either going to hit another car or you're going to hit the wall. That's it.
Absolutely, and we saw some interesting maneuvers in last week's Chase of Pace. So if that is repeated, this is a smaller grid than Chase of Pace. Let me start there. Chase of Pace had quite a few more drivers.
18, yeah.
But even with this smaller grid, I mean, one wall tap, one kiss, one squirm, and all of a sudden it's a whole different race. So we will be monitoring very closely what is to come here this evening. We shout out to the personnel in the chat over on our Twitch channel. We see Roger Robinson, one of the drivers in the aforementioned Chase or Pace race, tuning in. So thank you for joining us there, Roger. I even see one of the drivers who should be on track and actually, well, he was on track. He's at the top of the timing sheet currently, Jaden Harrison in the chat. I mean, I don't understand that young man sometimes, but a character to say the least is Jaden Harrison. We are a few minutes out from qualifying, or the start of qualifying. This is a pre-practice session to make sure all the drivers are able to find their way into the lobby, get warmed up, get dialed in just before the start of qualifying. We are about 4 to 5 minutes away from the qualifying session. Actually, 2 minutes and a cool down according to the race clock. But I won't be asking Andrew Stens for his predictions. Andrew is of the firm belief that he is a jinx.
Well, I will speak on behalf of you, but I will be the devil's advocate here. As I said, I've been watching the racing for the past 2 events, 2 weekends. It's been absolutely crazy, and I've been the analysis is I think a combination of what you guys have been saying and my own observations. So I'm gonna start on the basis that I think this is the 4th event. We're pretty much halfway here, and it's not as clear cut as everybody thinks it is. And that's my personal opinion. What you saw in free practice yesterday was what I expected. Because after what happened at Chase for Pace, there was only one way for all the other drivers to go. They had to step their game up because they know what Moss is capable of.
I think so. That is a very valid point in that, I mean, those were times that were flirting with the 211s, which Kurt Moss is the only driver that has posted a time in the 211s thus far. And everybody was flirting with it. I think 3 to 4 drivers were right there in the low 212s, and 212 zeros were even being posted very frequently. So I think all of the drivers pushing to ensure that you don't have a situation like last week where Kurt Monsters drove off into the sunset after turn 1 and the rest of the field had to fight it out for second place.
Not only that, they had faster theoreticals than Kurt.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is what the JSRA wants. This is why we have this event. If you want to be better, you have to be racing the best.
Yes, you have to.
And you're either going to fold like a piece of paper or you're going to rise to the occasion. And it's amazing to see the drivers rising to the occasion.
Absolutely.
A lot of the drivers who, I think few of the drivers, you had made the comment that you felt that earlier in the season, a lot of the drivers, they got to a point where they felt that they couldn't compete and they stepped off or backed away. But then the ones that have actually remained, they have been stepping their game up.
Definitely.
You know, I checked the timing tables earlier and I saw Mitchell at the top. And I was like, okay, here we go. Then I refresh and Jaden's at the top. All right, and they're there. They have the time. They have the pace. The question is, and as I
can
move
put
into
it
my
together?
discussion, we will explain what my other theory is at this point.
No
in
problem.
time.
But yeah, Andrew made a very good point in that the theoreticals, when we were looking at them yesterday, I mean, Mitchen's theoretical 2:11.5,
Yes.
Mark's a 2:11.6, Jaden a 2:11.7, and I mean, Moss is a 2:11. No, Moss is a 2:11.7, and Jaden is a
not bad.
2:12.0.
Something. Yeah.
So,
Something
I mean, if any of those drivers can put that lap together in its entirety, we're in for an interesting race. And if you qualify ahead here, it's just a matter of trying to hold on and keeping drivers at bay. We know some of these drivers, masterful defensive drivers. Mark Anthony Eaton has shown it time and time again. Kurt Moss has shown what he is capable of in terms of his strategizing and controlling a race. Mitchen has shown his capabilities and his racecraft. I mean, we have tons of talent here this evening that it can be anybody's game depending on how things go. So, I mean, we have lots to discuss, as Rory said, and it will be interesting to talk about.
Let's just give the folks what's up for stake here. As I always say, there's 100K here, but the truth of the matter is, this is the fourth event. There's still a lot of points up going on. At this point, we have 554 points available to everybody across both races going forward. All right, so that's including all the rounds, the sprint race, the main race, the pole, and the half points you get for fastest lap. So there's still, with that many points still up for grabs, there is still the opportunity for you to move forward and win. So I don't think at any point in time that any driver now should believe that they don't have the opportunity to be at the top of the
I
points.
am inclined to agree with you to some extent, but I mean, I am myself looking at the point standings at current, which we will review a little later on in the broadcast. But based on the current point standings, I would say, I mean, if Moss continues on his current form, I would say he's a shoo-in to just run away with this thing if he continues in his current form. But second place is definitely up for grabs, as those drivers are very close together in the race for second. Moss, however, is 20 points clear of anybody else at this particular stage in time.
Yeah,
And with the
but
form
remember,
he's been showing.
if you win a race, you have 25 points.
Agreed. Every driver scores points in every event. So it's not a case where he would not be scoring even if he finished dead last. But I'm saying he has shown a form thus far. And I mean, if Chase of Pace last week is anything to go by, we see what he is capable of around this track. And it's always a matter of knowing that, yes, some drivers will be good around some tracks and not so great around others. But he has shown form on every track that we have raced at so far. And I mean, at what point will we start to see any fall from grace for Kurt Moss? Because in order for anybody to take the fight to him, we do need to see him drop off even slightly.
Well, here's the mix in the grid, is that there's a reverse grid race.
True.
And while we understand that he can work his way through traffic, at the end of the day, the situation is that he's still got a bunch of capable drivers ahead of him. I don't think he's won a reverse grid race. It's gone to Mitchen and Jaden and Eaton.
Fair.
So, you know, it's a strategy. These people have to take advantage of. Mr. Spence going through the calculations, the meme with all the fractions.
The algebraic equation.
I know he's trying to keep quiet, but I can see it in his eyes. You gotta say something. You gotta the fans are waiting.
I don't want to make any predictions.
You don't have to make a prediction. Just give us your overview of the whole thing. You
I
can't be in the broadcast
don't
and be
think
quiet.
Moss is not going to lose any pace or any position as long as it has to do with his own doing. Meaning no back mark or no other driver hitting him out of the race. He's way too consistent for that. I mean, things happen, but time and time again, he's proven himself to be technically the best so far. So on that note, the drivers have some work to do. I was saying to Chad yesterday that maybe the strategy for this race, if it were me, I'd go to Eaton and say, here we're Eaton. And listen, Mitchen, if you lap one, this is what we're going to do. We're going to block him for the first corner. And
I don't think the stewards would enjoy that.
Well,
might be some visitations in the stewards' room.
Oh, certainly.
And I know from the last event that the stewards are really tired and they're going to be dealing with any.
No, but, you know, you have to try something. You can't make him run away again. So it's a thought.
I like the outside of the box thinking, Andrew, but I think you're getting too creative here in your plans. I do think at this point, though, we will be taking a brief recess whilst we prepare for the start of the qualifying session, as we are experiencing a bit of a glitch. But we will be getting going in a moment. Whilst we do so, there will be a brief intermission starting in a moment. So we will be right back, folks. as we are awaiting the start of qualifying, which will be getting going now, we are seeing the liveries here on display for the cars that were designed by, as mentioned, AM Designs. We're looking at these liveries sporting our sponsors' logos and the Jsra logos, so on and so forth. And you know, they're very well done designs, and they do showcase
the Domino's car, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't even have to be a pizza lover to know how. They should copy that design and actually put on whatever racing team they ever sponsor. That's how good that is.
Absolutely. Well, yes, we are in now the qualifying session, and we will be observing to see who it is that comes out on top in this session, as we have had very many different drivers top individual sessions throughout the week. We will certainly be seeing a fight, dare I say, for the top of the timing sheets. So we will be look forward to see that as we are riding along with the drivers on their outlaps. They are going around the track to get going in the race. Well, in the qualifying session, I should say.
Well, the truth of the matter is, the qualifying sessions, as I think I said this earlier, with the we saw this at another point in time, is that this is a long track. It's a 2 minute, let's say 11, 12 second lap. So you're qualifying, you need to be on the boil from get-go, because really and truly, at 15 minutes, you're probably only getting 6, maybe 7 laps if you're lucky. So you need to be on the get-go from the get-go.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned, you're right, and I think, dare I say, 6 laps even sounds a little bit generous, because you might get, you have your outlap first of all, which already takes 2+ minutes. Then you have your first flyer, and I'm not sure if you're going to go right from one flyer into the next. You might have a cool down lap somewhere in there, so dare I say you get 3, maybe 4 good laps if you're lucky. So a very fair point in that if you're not on it from go, you are in trouble in this qualifying session. And what you do not want to be is stuck behind any driver that you know you have more pace than, because you will find that in some spots on the track it is difficult to get by, and those tend to be the spots that are, how do I say, harder to pass at, and you know that is gonna hinder your race and probably cause you some struggles. I believe at this point you want to start your your strategy, your analysis.
Right. No problem. Let's so let's go straight to the. Let's go straight to this.
All right, so we are looking at our championship leader,
Kurt Moss, 91.5 points. He came first in the main race, got pole, got the fastest lap. Came second in the sprint. He's fast. There's no question about that. I would never question that, but I'm going to say that he's not invincible. This man, Jaden Harris, is 20 points behind him and still has a hope. As you see from Jaden was number 1. He won round 1, but for the past 2 rounds, he has not been able to meet that expectation again. He was 4th in the main race, and he was 3rd in the sprint. So I think I'd made the discussion that maybe what he needed to do was stop racing, doing these 24-hour races, etc., before this event. You know, slack off a little bit, get some rest, and give this his full attention. All right. So then we go to Eaton. Again, a driver not showing his potential because he's dealing with these guys, the threats. So, Roper was in 4th. Didn't have a good race. Eastman's now in 4th. Mitch and Wallace, who was literally nowhere, now got 39 points. These 3 guys are the threats to the next 2 positions. And what's happening is that, and I think this is my own personal theory, is that these guys are fighting with second and third and keeping them busy while Kurt is getting the free boot up the road. So there has to be an issue here. What are you planning on doing? Are you going to be fighting with these guys, or do you focus on your own race and get to the front of the pack? Andrew,
Well,
you agree with me? First of all.
Yes, I do. Based on barring the race at
Austria?
Austria, yeah, that was a real table turner with the penalties and stuff. Over 5 minutes worth of penalties
Just about,
being
yeah.
issued, which kind of took everything up. I would say you're correct as it relates to the battle for second, primarily because initially, consistently, I would have had Eaton at second initially when we started, right? Based on the amount of laps he was doing, based on the consistency. However, on a race day, there just always seems to be something that, what is happening in practice is not necessarily transitioning into the race. So based on my interviews with him, he has had, if he's not focusing on the driver, then maybe some issue with the car, whatever it is. But no, don't want to say it, but Mitchen is definitely, I would say, contending for the top spot.
Yeah, Mitchen, literally, he's now in sixth. He was literally nowhere in the points table. He missed the first event, so this is his chance to move. That's what I'm saying. This group behind Moss is allowing Moss to walk away with it. Chad, your theory.
So I do like your analogy in that yes, there is a lot of validity to what you're saying. Moss has been in control of his own destiny from the start of this competition up until now. Took second place in round one. Jaden did beat him to the checkered flag. I want to believe he won that sprint. I could be wrong, but we will fact check.
I think he won one.
I believe he won that sprint, but we will fact check. However, since that he has won the next two races and has done so in a fairly commanding fashion. When you take Austria at face value, that was the first time he was involved in a dogfight with Mark Anthony Eaton. And it wasn't until after the race, where all of the penalties were applied, that he got this very comfortable victory. Looking at the overall result of that race, Eaton, who finished in second, ended up all the way down in fifth position because of the penalties applied. And that is how quickly your championship can change. Because what would have been a shoo-in for him being either closer to Jaden or ahead of Jaden, given that Jaden also received several penalties in that race, is just being that much more precise in his driving and not getting the level of track cut penalties that were issued to those drivers. Had that happened, we would be looking at Mark being closer to the fight with Jaden for second position. Jaden again is 20 points off of Kurt, 20.5 points off of Kurt. Mark is a further 12 points back. That deficit could have been a lot smaller if existing at all. And as mentioned, the three drivers behind Eastman, Roper, and Wallace are well within range of Eaton for third position. Now you're in two minds. Are you fighting with Jaden ahead for second, or are you defending from those drivers behind? And I will tell you right now, Mitchen has shown definite pace at this track and in the previous races. He didn't have such a wonderful race overall at Austria, but when the penalties were applied, he found himself in third position. That is how quickly your championship can change. One wrong move, one penalty where a penalty was not necessary. All of a sudden, you're looking at an entirely different championship.
So I'm going to shuffle the deck. I'm going to be Andrew. I'm going to throw two dark horses at the dark horse.
All right.
Nathan Bryan, Eastman. I think they have the speed, they have the consistency, they can move up.
I will agree with you on the Nathan Bryan front. I am not yet so sure what Kimani has on offer. I mean, even looking at the qualifying session now, 4 drivers have posted fast times. Kimani is 2 seconds adrift around Mount Panorama. The consistency might play a role. I will agree with you there. In that, if he is consistent and avoids any kind of incidents, keeps his nose clean, then he could come into contention. But I think from a pace standpoint, at the moment, this is not his race. My dark horse would be, and Andrew might hate me for this, but Mitchen Wallace. I think Mitchen could definitely be the spoke in the wheel at this race to the top 3. Not expecting him to be in that mix. Again, Mitchen missed the first round and is still finding himself in contention for 3rd position. I mean, he's 20 points off of Eaton in 3rd, but that's 20 points having missed an entire round.
I will also make this also clear that we've simply just disregarded the number 2 person. None of us have mentioned anything about Harris. Are we that?
I wouldn't say it's not a matter of not wanting to mention him, but you did state, the issue about consistency. And as you said recently, the past couple of races, he really hasn't been showing the same level of craft as he did initially. So for this race in particular, for me, Brian is fast, but for me, the consistency hasn't been there. Looking at the practice laps anyway, I mean, there are quite a few moments with him, kissing the wall.
Do you think he's feeling gun shy from his incident last?
No. I don't get the impression that he's shying
from
away.
the base.
I think he's trying to attack. I really think that's what his motive is. That's what I'm thinking. All right. So whereas Mitchen, we know he's fast. Mitchen is still a rather conservative driver. So
I'm going to interrupt momentarily, gentlemen, to point out that Mr. Moss
I was just about to point.
is at the top of the timing sheets on a 2:11.9.
Yes.
I mean, I think that is the fastest time posted so far this week. The fastest actual time, I should say. Theoretical times have been a little bit quicker, but that is the fastest anybody has strung a lap together so far this week by a couple of hundredths to himself. But the point is, he has found it.
So he's on pole basically because everybody else has 1 lap at this point.
well, I mean, as I was saying initially, granted it wasn't a favorable strategy. However, with the times being so close, it would be in the best interest of the drivers once they're within reach of Moss. Somehow find your way in front safely, because the nature of this track is there are 2 straights really, Conrad Straight and Mountain Straight, where you can actually make a safe overtake. So other than that, use the complexity of the track to your advantage to block him, quote unquote.
You can't be
No,
encouraging that
listen.
sort of driving behavior.
No, but you have
I'm not-
to use it.
I mean, I understand where Andrew's coming
You
from.
can
Maybe
defend. You
yeah,
can't.
I was about to say maybe blocking is a strong
Okay,
word.
all right, maybe not blocking.
Defending.
In my mind, the
What do you think
defense
this
should
is,
be
NASCAR?
No, man, they would have to get blocked. In fast. Man, you have to play it. You have to play it a certain way.
You would be in the steward's room.
Well,
after
when I go to
qualifying.
I'll block him in the race. I go to the stewards and said I was defending. You can't tell me
Alright,
otherwise.
So we know where he's going, and Mark is putting in some green laps there, getting a bit faster. Everybody basically, we have a minute left of qualifying, so we have basically 1 lap, of course. My dark horse, Mr. Eastman, has dropped to 6th. I'm giving his 2-second top, but everybody else is literally within a second of each other, from 2 to 5.
Which is about what we expected given what times we're looking
So
like
this comes
yesterday.
back. This comes back to what you were saying and what I'm saying is that these drivers are within the group. Are they willing to look at the bigger picture, or are they willing to continue to fight with themselves while Mr. Moss scurries along like a kangaroo on the front straight?
To be honest, this is not necessarily the track to be trying to chase first place. Meaning, well, early on at least, you need to. If it's not early, I think you should leave it alone and think about who's behind you.
Is there any sort of strategy play here?
I would think Me personally, if I'm Nathan right now, Nathan sits in second position behind Moss. Should things stand as they are, and he finds himself in second place, I would say it's time to get very aggressive in turn one.
Definitely. I agree
And,
totally.
And in doing so, maybe throw Kurt a curveball in that have him have to think about it.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying getting aggressive. Put your car somewhere that might force him to have a think. Get your elbows out.
Huh?
If you want to interpret it that way, I'm not opposed.
So let's roll into the mind of Sir Kirtland Moss. You have the point lead. You have the points lead. Is this a race that you need to win, or do you just need to maintain your points margin at this?
I think safely he needs to win this. How far is he? Oh,
20.5 points ahead.
that's one race.
Yes.
So I think
My
he
point,
needs, to, he
exactly.
needs to put that in the bag, and then he can focus on whatever else after that.
So qualifying's done. We can see what our grid is. Moss at the head. Brian, dark horse. He is shot all the way up. Clearly a driver that has the speed, but that has not had the results. Harrison, who we disregarded completely a few minutes ago. Wallace, who had an issue, but is there. Eaton, all the way down in fifth. You know, what you think's happening here?
Kale has not yet found a representative lap for qualifying, and I'm not sure what struggles he's having at the moment.
Well, maybe this is a good thing here. You start at the back of the grid, you avoid all the mayhem, take all the places you can.
Well, also he just while everyone was still practicing, he kind of had to stop to deal with the rig, and not only that, he moved to a different pedal set. And my experience here is that the feeling of rig 1 is not the same as rig 2.
Absolutely,
So
you are
he has to
correct.
be adjusting to that right now. So
Yep, you are correct. And rather unfortunate for...
So Moss at this point has, let's look at what is
half a point for pole.
7 point for Pool. Okay.
Indeed.
All right. So he's at 92 points now.
yeah, he's good. What were you saying? Unfortunate what?
I've lost that train of thought. But I mean, looking at the qualifying results, so we might have to be thankful that there is a buffer between Jaden Harrison and Mark Anthony Eaton in Mitch and Wallace, because we know what happens when those two get together on track.
Mitchen needs to get away far from those two early on, because we saw what happened
Like
between
oil
Ty.
and water.
Yes. With
Maybe fire and a can of gasoline. More like it.
Yeah, well, we will see what happens. Well, as we will get going. I mean, looking at the qualifying table, and again, I see now where if the race continues as we expect it, I mean, given where the drivers are now in terms of position, Mitch and Wallace could be very comfortably in position to leapfrog both Eastman and Roper here to take that fourth position and start to get into the mix of the fight for the top three.
True, but then Roper seems to be having some problems here. Yes, you might be.
yeah, he's
Not enjoying the.
it's probably the break.
Yeah.
I must say that was probably the biggest difference for me.
But
But
the
racing's on.
situation is that maybe he has flying the pace in the sprint race, reverse grid. It's short. Nobody's there to beat him. Just everybody else is fighting themselves off. Grab the.
I mean, we will
grab the
see.
easy 8 points.
We will see what happens when we get to the sprint stage. But for now, we have the main race on our hands, which will be starting in a moment. And when we do get going for the main race, this is round 4, gentlemen. There are 3 rounds to go. So in your point with Moss and Moss needing to win this race, I mean, I understand why you would say yes, but being 20 points ahead, if it's a case where he find himself in maybe second position, third position, I'd say just hold the faith, take that slot instead of getting too involved in a fight that might cost you further positions, and then in doing so, live to fight another day, because he would still be comfortably in the lead of this championship with 3 rounds to go. Do I think he will have pace at the next 3 tracks? can't say with certainty, but he has shown pace thus far in every round that he has been in. So who's to say he will not still have pace at that point?
Yeah, I agree
Maybe
with
we
that.
should-
I was coming from the perspective of the possible shunt.
Fair.
So in the event of that, just to get rid of all of those possibilities, max this race out. But at the same time, I really want to see the other guys do well. So
Fair. Yes, we will be doing a free pizza giveaway throughout the stream. It is a little early yet for that giveaway. The question that you will have to answer will come from the happenings of this evening. So make sure you're paying close attention for all the drivers in the chat. The drivers in the chat. For all of the spectators in the chat, make sure you are paying close attention to the happenings of the evening. And when it comes time for us to do the Domino's giveaway, we will announce the question and the first driver. I'm very set on the drivers here as I am just so excited for this race to get going.
Here we go.
And we are lining up on the grid, so we will be preparing to go racing in a moment here.
Yes.
And
It's interesting why Mr. Moss is in it.
we are sure to see
There we go.
lots of action unfold in a moment.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if people aren't familiar, we're at the Mount Panorama Circuit, which was opened in 1938. It's one of the longest street circuits in the world. It might look like a purpose-built racetrack, but it isn't. It's actually a street track. Sections of it are off limits during non-race time, but the other times it, residential here. So here we go, 6 lights, and we are go.
And off we go as we are on board with Jaden Harrison alongside Ms. Mitchen Wallace. And as we get to turn 1, can't win the race, you can lose the race though.
Okay, I'm away on the outside, trying to avoid the Mr. Bryan.
We look to have had a very clean getaway.
But then we head into Griffin's Bend, this is basically, we saw some interesting overtaking on this during Chase for Pace. Is that Mitchen?
Mitchen is looking up the inside, heading into Griffin's corner. Oh my God.
2-car. Whoa, he taps him on it. There we go, Mitchen. I guess. Bit of aggressiveness. If you ain't rubbing, you ain't racing, huh?
Absolutely. Mitchen takes that place. And oh my God. And I was about to mention the fact that is Mark Anthony Eaton and Jaden Harrison together on track. And so said, so done. No, it wasn't. Who was that? Eaton is still behind as Jaden is right with Mitchen still. My apologies. But Jaden looking to get at Mitchen here as they are now heading towards Skyline. And they're starting the S's.
this is very close. My gosh.
I've had this conversation with Jaden before, but Nathan up ahead
Whoa!
has gotten ahead of Kurt Moss, who is falling down the order very quickly.
Moss.
What happened there? Whoa, did not have no idea what happened there.
Down to 4th position is Kurt Moss.
He was at the lead. He
Giving
must have made
the lead to
he
Nathan
must have
Bryan.
had a mistake somewhere along. So
It might have been contact with Nathan, but we don't have the replay to look at, so I'm sure
was Nathan that close to begin with?
I
Yeah,
believe
he was close, yeah.
Alright, so I suspect maybe some of the red mist has been lowered right now.
absolutely, and he is already fighting with Mark Anthony Eaton there to take back 4th position.
There's only one way through this corner.
Yep, and he has to.
But there we go.
Wow,
Whoa.
getting very feisty.
There we go. We need some rubbing.
I mean, hopefully that wasn't an incident between Brian and Moss. However, this is the time to be consistent. Brian, now is the time.
Absolutely, and as we made mention, it just takes one incident.
Yes, only
and
one.
the race has changed drastically. Moss is now fighting with Eaton for 5th position, and I mean, of all the drivers to get caught behind, we know this driver in particular
Of course,
will
the Mercedes
defend.
is a wide car, but we know Eaton
Yeah.
can make it wider.
But Moss has a run up
That's the speed.
Mountain Straight here. He is on the outside, and I'm sure Eaton will be looking to squeeze it
Yeah, man.
as they finish the run up to Griffin's Bend, and I'm looking. Mark looks to have backed out of it. I was expecting the elbows to come out just now, gentlemen, but maybe Mark thinking long game here, and we'll just.
okay.
Oh my
Who was
goodness!
that?
And that is
That was-
Roper behind, getting very squirrely there. But I think now maybe Eaton thinking long game here, and we'll just follow Kurt along, trying to catch up to the rest of the competition, and maybe
That is
use
a
Kurt to.
significant-
Kurt having another moment there, and very uncharacteristic of Kurt.
Yeah.
What happened right there? The ping.
Kurt's not having a great start to the race here.
You know,
And
I was about to say that it would have been in eat. That was a smart thing to do. Eating to do. You know, stay in the slipstream and just take advantage of that possibility till the end of the race. Oh no, everybody's all over the place.
Okay.
Who's?
that was Roper in
was
front
Roper
of
yes.
Moss.
Yeah.
And the steward does not look very kindly at that for Kilby and Roper.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Um,
He was in front. He retained his lead. Hey,
as you said earlier, Chad. I mean, in the case of Kale, at least, I think he needs to focus on just finishing the race
Absolutely.
rather than trying to attack because he's in no condition right now
Yeah,
to be pressing it.
I am inclined to agree with you there, but I mean, seems to be
Whoa.
taking the fight here to
yeah,
Moss, but
Moss
Moss
is not taking this down.
Moss
Kale is
getting
not
that position
gonna
back.
back up.
And as Rory did mention, I am sure Moss is driving with that anger in his eyes right now. that red mist.
Not the red now. It's crimson. It's crimson mist.
Absolutely. But Nathan Bryan finding time ahead, posting the fastest time of the race, and is just holding on to this lead comfortably.
Maybe he did some indiscretion and he's trying to make sure that he has enough of a buffer with the stewards, but we don't know what happened.
That was actually a brilliant lap for the second lap. 2:12.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the fuel.
So my dark horse.
Yeah, I was about to make mention of the fact that maybe Rory, you have the commentator's curse, right? And Rory has the commentator's blessing. So
My dark horse, as he says, right behind Brian. So
when did Mitchen get ahead of Jaden Harrison? There's lots of action unfolding.
yeah, he's been there for a
He's been there
while.
for a while.
Yeah, quite a while.
And I mean, this
So he
race
can
is
stay there
unfolding.
because it's not.
Listen. Let us not.
No, you gotta speak the truth. I
Well,
go to St. Thomas often. So
well, I mean, so far in the opening 2 laps here.
So
we had-
this race we have just taken the deck and shuffled everything, and nothing we have said is or predicted has actually turned out the way it's supposed to turn out.
Harrison seeming to close the gap on
Oh!
Wallace. I mean, I hope he learns from the first attempt. You know,
we
but-
will see. Yeah, we will have a look at what's happening there as he is right with Wallace, as you mentioned, Andrew. And this is now the fight for second position. And I mean, 5/10 in it as we are on the run down Conrad Straight. Jaden can find that position.
Now here's the problem: are these two going to be fighting themselves and allowing Eaton to come up, or is there enough of a gap where they're?
I think Mitchell is more interested in catching Brian more so than defending from Jaden because you know how aggressive Jaden is.
Yes.
You need somebody in between yourself and Jaden, you know, to have a possibility.
They're really
Whilst I
good.
agree with you, I mean, it's one thing to want to take the fight to Nathan, but we know Jaden is one to put his car anywhere he can to take a position.
That is true.
So anywhere Jaden sees that opening, he will be looking to stick a nose in and give Mitchen something to think about. I think maybe for the benefit of his race, Mitchen might need to concede this position at some point and just hope to follow along or hope Jaden makes a mistake somewhere down the road. If you get into a dogfight now with Jaden here at this stage, and like I said, Jaden is not going to give you any room to play with here. Anywhere he sees the opportunity, Jaden's going to try and take it.
Yes.
And whilst he's doing that, Nathan Bryan is running away up ahead and Mark Anthony Eaton is playing right back into the race. As you can see him there in the background coming up towards the cutting. I think your best bet, and I think it would be smart for Jaden to stick behind Mitchen here
Yes.
as they're both running similar lap times and just keep it going at that place. But as he takes a look there, that's what I mean. This is not where you want to be looking to make a move.
Well, no,
but
we'll
he's
see.
having a look. and it's just it's brave racing, but is it smart racing?
Taking a look at this part of the track is not going to necessarily
That-
fare
this
well.
is-
He
this
did
is-
hit him here initially, so hopefully he eases up
You
a
need
bit.
to-
No, I mean it's not the smart way to go about this, but I think Jaden only knows one racing style, and that is go fast and
Fast.
furious. Dare I say? So he's gonna try, but all the while, I think you're gonna start seeing Mark Anthony Eaton come back into contention. But Nathan Bryan seems to be
Up 3
checking
tenths,
out
yeah.
quite comfortably
Sure.
ahead of the rest of the pack. And whilst he's doing so, I mean, Mitchell and Jaden sticking with each other, but Nathan is now almost 5 seconds clear of the two of them. So, I mean, Rory's dark horse prediction is looking brilliant at the moment in terms of this race result. Moss not really making inroads into Eaton either. I'm not sure what's going on with Kurt this evening because this is very uncharacteristic.
He had I know he had to wake up early this morning, 6 a.m. to do a 2-hour event. However, I mean, Harrison is likely in the same position, so I can't say for sure. Maybe he's not used to doing something like that. I don't know. I can't speak to it, but it's very, as you said, uncharacteristic of him.
Nathan having made a mistake there because these guys are closing up to him fast.
Oh, a whole 2 seconds. That,
Yeah, he lost about 2
Yeah.
seconds there in
See?
the stint of 2
So
corners.
let's do the math at this point. So Kurt would, if he finished where he is in fifth, he would have 102 points. Jaden Harrison would have, race leader Brian would go up to 34 points. Wallace would jump up to 44 points. And then Eaton would be at 71 points. And Jaden Harrison in third would be at 86 points. So at this point, our top three would actually remain the top three after the first main race.
Yeah, but it would close the gap significantly to the drivers behind.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's still early days. The pit window is open, by the way. The
I'm
pit
not
window opened
sure
at the
why
5th minute.
Jaden feels the need to try and overtake going down through the cutting. I've never seen an overtake there.
I'm not even sure of the platform for HTC, but I do know if you don't allow, an air gap between you and the following car, your tires are going to, the tires and your engine and all that's gonna, experience some heat soak. It's gonna work against you, but
Yeah, the
I think
physics
that's a
is a little
factor.
bit different in Assetto Corsa. You are right. Typically, in the newer platform ACC, that would be the case, but I'm not sure if you get the same kind of wear and tear in Assetto Corsa. You certainly are putting a lot of.
Eastman has gone down. Maybe he made a mistake versus Roper. Yes,
he
yes.
did have a spin.
We have to spin. Okay. Or maybe he was a little tappy. You never know these things. But Brian is just, whoa, he is just going.
He seems
Well,
to be
they're actually-
making a few mistakes here and there because that gap is fluctuating a little bit.
Yes, and we see his lap times have dropped significantly into the
Yep.
13s.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know, maybe he's been regulating the pace or it's a tire situation at this
No,
point.
I certainly think he's making an error or two.
Yeah.
Moss has found his way past Mark Anthony Eaton. Not sure. Oh, Eaton took his pit stop. Okay. I think maybe smart for Eaton, as we were mentioning earlier, the pit window opened at minute 40 in this event. Maybe El Presidente making room for the drivers who possibly might have had incidents early on. But having taken that pit stop this early, Mark Anthony Eaton might be sitting in a position to push himself up the order later on. We'll see if the undercut is the play here. But Moss will now want to use this clean air to try and make inroads into the drivers ahead. And yet still the gap is coming down to Nathan Bryan.
yes.
Not sure if mistakes are still being made up ahead or if the drivers behind are just finding the pace now.
Or fear of the mistakes rather, that is causing him to be, more conservative.
That is a very real possibility.
Well, we see that Harrison has sort of, I don't know if he's backed off, but he's maintaining a significant gap to Ooh, there we
Yeah,
go.
Mission
The
was-
the cutting's always an interesting. So is this the you?
And as they're now
I'm speechless because this battle is just absolutely amazing. Seeing these two gentlemen drive their hearts out because at this point, this is a significant advantage. The event leader, the points leader, is literally, well, he's not that far back. He's now in fourth. So
Well, net fifth still.
that
As,
fifth
as,
still. So this is as you said, this is a good points haul for everybody here. Is he gonna try and inside here?
No, Jade. No.
Oh my God.
No.
That's not gonna go with good with the steward.
No.
That's not gonna go with the steward.
Oh my God. And Jaden sticking the nose in there. Mitchen was entitled to that corner.
Yes, he was.
And certainly the stewards will have a look at that and not be too fond of that move by Jaden Harrison.
That was way too aggressive. Should have backed up. Should have backed up.
Jaden had the perfect strategy. Keep the car in the rear view mirror.
Yes.
Mitchen is bound to wear those tires. At some point, I mean,
And I think overall they were on the right pace to make the inroads into Nathan up ahead. Now Nathan comfortable as a 10-second lead, and they have played Kurt Moss right back into the equation.
Yeah, and then this is the ebb and flow of racing, but we know that Harrison's going to get a penalty for it. There's
Also,
no, yes.
to now be considered, Eaton, who has already taken his pit stop behind,
Okay.
might now be ahead of these two when they take their pit stops. So Eaton might now find himself.
That four-leaf clover in his passenger seat. He's been
Oh,
rubbing
absolutely.
it for the last
Yep,
10 minutes in the race.
that horseshoe that is
There.
in his back pocket that he always has with him.
Rory, your dark horse looking like a Pegasus.
That is a fair assessment, I'm not gonna lie, because I mean 10 seconds clear of second position. The only person likely to be able to make any inroads into that is Monsieur Sterling Moss. And he now has Jaden to contend with in the next few laps.
So
should
the
he
question
make...
is he gonna just stick behind him until the pit stop, or is he actually gonna try and make a move on track with Harris? Knowing the history and the I should say the lack of clarity during passing that Mr. Harris.
To be honest, I can't speak to Kurt's pit strategy right now because last race he had Chad and I dumbfounded. You know, he was 3 seconds behind the leader in Copa del Caribe, Rodriguez, right? And took the pit stop and ended up 3 seconds ahead. So I'm gonna leave that one alone.
So he's gonna be just burning in the laps now. But so yes, we have an issue here now because clearly again the race has been reshuffled. And again, as I always say, it's why we race. Nothing's ever clear cut. It's like a blender. So let's see if Nathan's able to, Brian is able to keep his position.
No, certainly. and I think-
Maybe Moss gets the second.
I think Kurt will be aiming to get by Jaden because what you don't want is to be. I mean, whilst Jaden might be looking to go back on the offensive, should Kurt get by, Kurt definitely has the pace over Jaden
Definitely.
to check out ahead. But what you don't want is to be caught. Sticking with Jaden would be fine if you could expect the level of consistency that we know Kurt has. But I don't think Jaden has that same level of consistency. So if you get to a stage where it's going to affect your race trying to stick behind him, or the erratic nature of Jaden might cause an issue, it's in your best interest to just get on by and do your own race at that point. All the while, you still have Nathan Bryan up ahead, comfortably leading this race, and if he can maintain this pace,
He will with it.
he will just be in control of the race the entire way through. And Kurt would have to make serious inroads, whether before the pit window or after the pit window, in order for any changes to that top spot for Nathan to take effect.
Okay, as Wallace, what do you do now? Do you try and punch in 1 or 2 laps to compensate for your loss and then go into the pits, or should you gone straight into the pits?
I think he should stay on track for just a little bit to gain back some time because, you know, he
I
was
guess
all
we
the way
also
back.
have to be manually keeping track of the people who are taking their pit stops. So
I
I know that
agree.
Eaton is taking his pits. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no. So I think at this stage, I mean, I don't think Kurt's pit strategy should have changed. Yes, he had the incident to start, but at this point, he is actually on merit in 3rd position. I think the only question mark is Mark Anthony Eaton behind, having already taken his pit stop, is only about 30 seconds back. So I'm not sure what the pit stop delta is, But depending on that pit stop delta, Kurt is at worst net P4
Right, so-
and will be close to Mark Anthony Eaton at that point.
Okay, so what we need to do is that the next person that takes a pit stop, we need to cut to them and see how long
Yeah,
the
that's-
pit stop. Jaden Harrison is just turned in Kurt Moss. Jaden then Kurt did the fastest lap. Kurt Moss still in the 12s on his tires. So clearly this is roughly, we would say about halfway through the race at this point.
Yeah, just about. I mean, we're a little above halfway, but we're getting to the halfway mark.
Or is the red mist in his mind like he's completely forgotten about taking a pit stop? He just wants to get ahead of Harrison.
No,
Kurt
I
is
think-
not that kind of
I
driver.
think he has a calm head about him still. Driving with angle, but still ever the master strategist is Kurt Moss. I think now at this stage, what we should be observing is Mitchen, oh God. One,
You know what? Next time I go to St. Thomas, I'm going to take him with me.
no, I think you definitely should, because I cannot understand how weekend in, weekend out, he did not put a foot wrong for the first 20 minutes of this race. And then Jaden sticks a nose up the inside, and suddenly you find yourself
From second to fourth.
fourth position, and actually fifth position. Oh, Eaton having had a moment there, out on track.
Yes. It's which him. He is.
I am not sure what took place there, but Eaton had a moment, and that once again is another change.
As we've discussed, and you said, because you've driven this track,
Uh-huh.
it is not a track of concentration.
Absolutely.
I think I said this the last time, is that it's a problem when the track's the actual enemy, not the other drivers.
Definitely. And he's still not looking to be. I mean, maybe that has thrown off his mojo, and he's now trying to refocus and recenter himself. But this has once again changed the race,
Yes, it does.
because he is now. Oh my God! And it's not looking too
It's going
great
to take
for
a
him. at the
while
moment.
to
Yeah.
recover, and we have Eastman still there, so still sideways.
And he is fighting the car at the moment, and this is a driver that has already taken his pit stop.
Jaden Harrison just turning in the fastest lap. He and
Kurt-
Moss are.
Kurt's 600th behind him.
Kurt is.
And they are finding slight time to Nathan Bryan ahead, but
not
Nathan is doing the job he needs to do
Yes.
in just driving his own race, maintaining that gap, and now sits comfortably ahead of the rest of the pack. A 9-second buffer, and that's 9 seconds on merit. I mean, yes, incidents took place behind him, but he's been driving his own race
So-
and has that 9-second gap.
This would make 3 different winners. Well, I commentator's curse. 3 different winners in 4 races.
Well, it's
That's
not,
competitive.
it's not over till the fat lady sings, but
Well-
that is what it's shaping up to be at the moment. So we will see as we progress through the race. But at this point, I mean, Moss is now almost within a second of Jaden Harrison up ahead. And that will be the next fight on. And if that fight does ensue, does that then mean that Nathan Bryan will gain further advantage whilst these two fight it out behind him?
Hopefully, this overtaking maneuver happens on the absolute straight.
Well,
Way before the
But
corner.
then here's the
No,
thing.
I don't want another.
Here's the thing with Kurt. Given the situation with Harrison, do you really want him behind you?
Well, again,
Maybe you just wait for the pit, or if you know that you. Well, I guess
Well-
maybe the guess is that he believes he has the pace to get around him and leave him in the dust once he's away.
Jaden is, well, I'm not sure if it's because he's behind him, but Jaden, as we've seen, is lapping faster than Kurt.
Exactly. So
Well,
maybe the theory is I don't necessarily want kamikaze man behind me.
well, Jaden now dives into the pits, it
Okay,
seems,
let's go to
so
the
that
pits,
will
straight into the pits, and then see what the time is.
that will
in
aid
the pit
in
lane.
Kurt's dilemma here, and Kurt should now be
So
able
Kurt's
to.
gonna turn in some Schumacher-like laps.
Oh, Nathan has also taken his pit stop. So the leader and second position in, and Moss regains the lead of this race. Not something we would have expected to have said Pit lane time thus far.
The pit stop is just for tires, so we're just swapping to the same compound, just newer tire.
Absolutely.
And that's
And Nathan now exits the
Nathan's
pit,
out.
so
So this is a long pit stop here.
yeah, so we're heading to 34 seconds, 38 seconds. Yep. So about
39.6, basically 40 seconds. So yeah, that's a chunk of time if you go into the pits.
absolutely, and I think now Jaden Eaton, who would have, I think, gained position on Eaton, on Harrison, sorry, now finds himself fighting with Roper once more. And when he takes the fight to Roper here, this has changed the race once more, gentlemen.
This is not necessarily good for Eaton right now going through.
But isn't that what we were discussing? That there's a chunk of drivers here.
Yeah.
They're so close.
But hopefully,
If anybody who makes a mistake,
Kale holds it
what's
together.
the term? If you slip, you fall.
Absolutely. So we are gonna see now. Well, Eaton is gonna gain that position. I think Eaton might be having an issue here, and that might be his race done.
Ouch.
Mark is definitely having an issue at the moment, and that's gonna once again throw a spoke in the wheel for his evening. That is so uncharacteristic.
Yes, definitely. The four-leaf clover didn't work today.
Oh my goodness, and this is
The tension.
no, definitely. My God.
It just never stops. You know, the peak performance, you have to be your peak performance. Otherwise, you know, as I said, it's just these small things that will separate everybody from everybody. And that's exactly why I'm saying is that despite what is perceived as a gap, I don't think it's over as yet. It's unfortunate that the other drivers who felt that they didn't have a chance exited, because the truth of the matter is you can see that no matter where you are, you could technically, grab some good points, be where you need to be.
Definitely, and this has changed the race entirely.
Yes, and so it's Eaton in the pits, trying to work out what he needs to work out. This is a big issue for. The good thing would be that he'll be on pole for
The sprint
for the
race.
sprint race. He'd still get his points for seventh, and he might get his points first. But at the end of the day,
Very little consolation though for what could have been a whole different
if
chunk
he
of
finished
points.
seventh, he would get sixth, and if he won since he would start on pole for the sprint race, what's that?
Oh.
6, and he would get 14 points.
Well, that could be what he's looking at the moment, but
I think he wants the race. He doesn't look too happy over there. But Kurt Moss, Wallace, 10 seconds. Brian. So we know that it's a 40 seconds. So we know that Brian, once he takes back over, so Kurt Moss would be third at this point, given the 40 seconds basically it took to, what was it, 30, it was 36, 37?
37 seconds.
Yeah, it's 37
So-
because he's
Well,
21, so he would exit the pit with, that would be what, 15?
Some 6 seconds behind Jaden Harrison.
Yeah.
Mitchen has yet to pit as well, so Moss and Mitchen not yet pitted.
But this is
Nathan
this
and
is a
Jaden.
master class by Brian.
So
Yes,
far,
yes.
definitely, and still has 10 seconds to Jaden Harrison behind him.
Yeah, the good thing is,
Mitch and Wallace just turned in the fastest lap, a 12-1.
I was concerned for Brian, especially when he, every time he goes through the dipper, because that's where I saw him making the mistakes during practice. I think that's what caused that incident where Mitchell and Jaden, he lost 2 seconds to them, even though he was in the lead. So hopefully he consistently gets through that area of the track fine, and if he does, more power to him.
And the thing is that since we don't know what caused the contact between Moss and Brian or first lap, technically, once the stewards are done, we could see Wallace if he
Also-
maintains the position, because I'm sure
It was contact. That's
Well, we don't know what the situation is.
Okay, okay.
But I'm assuming that there was, on the assumption that there was contact. Maybe Martha or the stewards are gonna have an issue. I'm gonna hope that there wasn't any contact.
Yeah.
But because as we've seen, Moss has made a few mistakes here and there.
You see, look at he just hit the wall. Then what he doesn't want is for that car to spin, because if he spins, that 9-second gap is gone because it's very narrow. You have
Whoa, okay.
Ooh, running wide over the exit of the depot there. Yeah, no, I mean, this race, we did expect lots of action, gentlemen, and we certainly are getting it.
This is like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Just a set piece after set
that
piece.
would have been classified as a cut for him, right?
It would be, and again, the stewards will have to
Oh boy.
decide how they play that. But
Sorry, Chad. In Austria, what was the situation with him again as it relates to?
he
penalty
had
for
the
cuts?
most cuts of anybody. I think a total of 207 cuts to him alone.
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully that's not the case here, for him, but he needs
There we
to
go. He's making.
keep-
So this is what you're talking about. The time thing. He is making mistakes. That's
Yeah.
what
He is.
the gap between himself and
And
so.
yeah. So Moss now takes his pit stop, promoting Mitchen to the lead.
But is he generally making mistakes because of mistakes, or do you think the situation is that he's trying to gain back the time
No, I
because
think-
he's afraid of?
I
of
think
Moss
that's
and
how
Wallace?
he drives. For no.
So Moss is
But
in the
no.
pits. Brian has
Taken back his
taken back
position.
his position.
And we will see where Moss reemerges. Moss's pit stop is done. That was a quick stop by Kurt Moss. And he looks to have emerged ahead of Jaden Harrison.
Whoa. Okay. Ooh, okay.
And has
This
jumped
is-
Jaden in the pit stop. The overcut once again working for Kurt Moss.
This is going to
And
be an
Jaden
interesting.
He's trying on the.
What is going on there? There is no.
Good.
Moss making that car very wide there. Jaden having nowhere to go.
What was he doing? What was he thinking there? I think he's way too aggressive.
He definitely is, and he needs to dial it back. And I think
There's useful exuberance, but that just doesn't make any sense. Put your car on the grass. He just spun in the
but
cutting. So
he's concentrated too
I'm
much
sorry.
on attacking rather than
that's
preserving his race. So
okay, he survived that one.
Yeah.
But he's what's that?
so, gentlemen, Moss actually
seconds.
finds himself in a net P2. Mitchen has yet to pit. And he is
That's why you never give up.
9 seconds adrift from Nathan Bryan. Can he make those 9 seconds? If Nathan continues to make small mistakes and Moss continues to put in fast laps.
Well, we know he's done several from the rear of the grid to the front. In various events. So, I would never count Moss out. But as I always say, the competition at this level, it's a situation where everybody's that good. It's whoever is making the mistakes that suffers.
And as you said earlier, Rory, this is the track. You're not worrying about other drivers alone. You're worrying about the track. So,
Absolutely.
valid point.
And I think at this stage of the game, I mean, we will probably want to find out what happened with Mark Anthony Eaton there, who has that's the
So,
end of his race.
If we look at Wallace, if he takes his pit, that means he's going to come up behind Harris.
As he is in the pits now, and we will see where he reemerges, but definitely behind Jaden, I think, at this point. Nathan already taking that position, and I'm sure you'll see Kurt coming through. There's Kurt, and there goes Jaden. So Mitchen should emerge comfortably in fourth position.
So is this a bit of revenge? Is Wallace going to do the tappity tap
On who?
on Harrison?
Well, he has 10 seconds to make up here.
Yeah.
So barring catastrophe for Jaden, I think Jaden has secured that third position at least until he has to take that trip to the stewards
Yes,
room.
he's going to get a nice slap on the wrist from the stewards for that. So
And
Maybe-
that should Mitchen stay consistent, that might gift him back that third position, depending on what the penalty applied to Jaden is for that incident.
Do you get, question gentlemen, do you get penalties for dangerous driving regardless of the fact whether impedes another driver's race or not.
Yes, you can
So
just
for the-
climb into a side of a driver.
No man, for example, there's grass and a little bit of tarmac for Jaden, yet he was attempting it. Nothing happened, but would you
No,
consider...
if you can, there's causing an unavoidable collision.
Yes.
So if there's causing an unavoidable collision, if you put your car in a position where you know it's going to collide with the other person.
Yeah, but
If
that's
you
my
take,
question.
if you take, yes, you could be penalized by the stewards. You can't put your car in positions that's going to make contact with it. And you know this from F1.
If they don't make contact,
I don't think you can be
Oh, no,
penalized with all the
no,
fun.
no,
so just dangerous driving on its own.
no.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, you would, in real life, you would get some thing on your license because
Okay.
they do look at your quality of driving, but the stewards wouldn't take you into they wouldn't take you into the stewards room for that. They would just like, why is this dude driving on the inside?
Ladies and gentlemen,
What
Nathan
just
Bryan
happened?
has had an incident
What
on
just
track
happened
and
there?
has gifted Kurt Moss
Oh my
the lead, and
God.
Jaden Harrison has taken
Wow.
second position.
What just it's like a big bowl of soup. We just stuck the spoon in and we just mixed it back up. Jaden Harrison just putting in the fast lap. Wow. It just couldn't hold it together.
And once again, the race has changed.
See, Andrew, you have no effect on this race. You can talk all you want. The fans demand it.
Well, I did say I was hoping he would have maintained it, but he was prone to mistakes and it went to the negative side of things, you see?
Oh my God, Andrews, you're convinced that your concern of being a jinx is astounding. Eaton has gotten back out on track, but he is a whopping 4 laps down, I guess. Just in
Not
the
a problem.
interest
He's
of-
seven, take the point.
Yeah,
You
in the
stay there.
interest of finishing
You
the race.
you automatically get the
Pole
pole
position.
for the sprint race, and we know he has the pace. So as long as the other racers are fighting behind themselves, and you know he can defend, I'm going to give him the sprint race.
Without incident, barring the incident he just had, where do you think, based on the nature of the times and how things have somewhat settled, where do you think Eaton would have placed by the end of this race?
Fifth.
Fifth, at best.
I think no. Well, he could be ahead because Mitchen had an incident. He was ahead of Mitchen, and now Nathan's incident could have played him back into somewhere in that gap between 4th and 3rd.
Okay.
Because I think the mistake that he made might have also been in relation to the issue he was having with the rig before. So who's to say that that might not have contributed to whatever that mistake was at the time? It's unfortunate. It's a part of racing. This might be a good time to shout out Mozo.
Very
Get some better rings into the center.
Get some Moses in racing gear.
And maybe we wouldn't have these issues. Hey, just throwing that out there. And another incident for Nathan
What
Bryan,
is he doing?
and all of a sudden his race has changed dramatically because Mitchen is now going to be right there in his rear view mirror.
Man.
Maybe you check his ping, or maybe he's having.
No, I'm not gonna say no, but based on the nature.
Hey, Andrew.
No, I could be wrong.
No, Mr. Spence, you need to speak.
I'm speaking.
Speak.
Listen, I don't know.
Don't
I'm not
hold your
feeling it.
tongue.
Listen, I haven't
Just say what you
seen
need
it.
to.
However, based as I said before, the nature of his driving, the consistency, it's just not. He's really fast. I'd probably compare him to Kale.
Yes,
At this
fast
point?
over a lap. but
Yes,
just
very
can't-
fast. And
Can't put a race together. It's just not having the luck to do that. But you can see.
It is unfortunate, but Mitchen Wallace now with 11 seconds off the lead of the race, and Jaden is actually right with Kurt. And this could lend itself to another incident here.
yes, I agree, Chad. I see Kurt going to heaven.
Oh my goodness. I would hope that he is smart enough not to do it here.
Yes, this is the worst place.
Oh my god. I just get so nervous watching him chase Kurt down the dipper. It's just it looks terrifying.
Oh,
And
I can't imagine
knowing
what
the
this looks
nature
like in my
of
car.
Jaden and what he is capable of, I mean, it would be so scary to think what could happen. But this is where he can go on the offensive, and he looks to have a decent run going down Conrad Strait. So we will see if he can stick a nose in, but hopefully it's a little bit cleaner than it was with Mitch and Wallace, and he is looking to put a nose in.
Whoa!
Yeah.
There was some contact there. There was some
Oh,
contact.
it's just-
There was
it
no
looks
need for contact there.
So aggressive between these
What
two.
is it about this race? Why he's extremely aggressive? You know, when he
Because
just started.
he wants to win again.
Not this is not
Okay.
nice.
Looking left, looking right, looking all over the place. He is trying desperately to get ahead, and
Maybe
maybe
there's some Red Bull or something.
I think maybe his thinking is he knows he has a penalty coming.
I agree.
Try
Or
to get
maybe,
ahead.
maybe he thinks
So-
he's
so
still
let's-
playing Forza Motorsports.
So
or
let's
something.
double it.
And Mitchell
No,
Wallace
maybe-
turns in the fastest lap at 12:0.
Oh my God! And he is trying to get right with Nathan Bryan, and is right with Nathan Bryan. So we have two battles on here:
Okay.
the battle for third and the battle for the lead.
So Wallace might end up actually on the podium again.
And could find himself even further up because again, Jaden should have a penalty coming.
But given what's been happening with Brian, do you back off and let him hope he makes a mistake over the next few minutes?
I think at the current, Mitchen has the pace. Take the fight to him, get
Yeah.
that position, and hope you can check out. Prance off into the distance and let Nathan drive his own race from
because if
there.
Harrison and Moss have an issue now, you basically are looking back at the two.
The two
first
fighting
and
for
second.
net lead. You're correct.
I mean, it comes down to the knowledge of the driver as well, because I don't think Mitchell has necessarily sat down for as long as we have to observe driving styles necessarily. Don't know his strategy.
Well,
However,
we know he's aware of Harrison, the driving style.
well,
now.
okay, for example, good. So on the front of Nathan, shot may be correct.
Whoa!
Yes, you see, always this side of the track, things go wrong for Nathan.
And Mitchen maybe it's smart here to give himself a little room going through this section in the hopes that
Smart.
any mistake that takes place,
Can we
he's not
switch back
caught
to
up
see
in.
what Moss is happening between Moss and Harrison here.
Harrison
Okay,
has
there's
fallen
gap.
back a little
Okay,
bit.
no problem. So let's go back to Moss and take.
We'll see if Mitchen can close up here to Nathan ahead. I think Nathan might actually have the advantage
I think
here down
Mitchell
the
is the
straight.
faster driver here and has the. Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a question now.
Sure.
You know I'm all about trying to bend the rules, right?
Yes, of course.
So I was at the track one day
Mr. Rule
with
Bamboo.
Peter Ray.
Yes.
Both of us were in a car,
Yes.
right? Me and like three other guys. So we're on a main street coming down to the first corner.
Yes.
I press my brake.
Yes.
The guy in front of me presses brake.
Uh-huh.
Peter Ray used the front of his cart and pushes us. It's not malicious, but I asked him why was that? He said he just used us as the brake.
Exactly.
So he didn't have to slow down. He just used the opportunity to use the cart to advantage. Can I do this in this platform?
No.
I don't.
I'm not slamming. Let's say I'm not slamming.
I
However,
don't think the physics is granular enough to allow that sort of.
Also, I'm sure the driver that you do it to will certainly will be up there in the steward's office going, sir, kindly take a look at this.
I would just half mask my brake and let the car rest. You can't tell me I wasn't braking.
No, because the carters do this and they also do this in the British touring car, where they go on the inside and they use the car on the outside to keep them within the circuit. So it's a common thing within the circuit, because if there's enough space, as long as you're not pushing the person off the track,
For example, yeah.
that's fine.
But he definitely made me miss.
You're not
the
supposed to.
turning
You're
point.
not supposed to be making contact. But then, as I always say from NASCAR, rubbing's racing. So
Jaden has once again closed up the
Yeah,
current.
I don't know how those tires are managing this.
And
Whoa,
he gets
clearly
so
not.
close
Those sideways,
through
right?
the dipper, and it just gets so nerve-wracking to watch him that close through that section of track.
But
It's
I'm
scary to watch.
gonna go with the stewards on this one, and I'm gonna say that it's gonna be Brian and Wallace on the podium.
I would
The
be inclined to-
stewards who wanted a nice day, they're not gonna get that on Sunday.
I'm wondering if something happened. Well, you said that he's being this aggressive because he possibly has that penalty.
Mm-hmm.
However,
But he caused it on himself.
He was aggressive before.
Exactly.
So do you think something happened earlier on that twitched, switched something in his head? Because
As I said, maybe he thought he was playing Forza Horizon or something.
No, again,
He's
I
not.
think Jaden is just a very. I've driven a few races with him.
He's a very aggressive driver,
He
but
is.
he's not.
Jaden Harrison with a 211.9, and here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh,
He is
I
on
think-
the hunt,
I think he has moments of lapses of judgment.
and
I
Mitchen has gained the position here,
Whoa!
side by side as they
There
go
we
to Hell
go.
Corner,
There we go.
and gets that position from
So
Nathan
what
Bryan
we're-
at long
but
last.
Brian's not about to let it go. Is he going to hold that line? Does he have a good?
I don't
Yeah.
think.
Two
I
does
don't
not
think-
go into one for Griffin's
Yeah.
Ben,
And-
gentlemen.
and
So
and you're, once you're on
somebody's
the
gonna
outside-
have to give.
Yes, once you're on the outside, you're on the wrong.
0.5, Chad. What are you talking about?
Boom,
Come on.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, and Nathan is sticking with Mitchen, and we hope these two can keep their noses clean as they go through this section of track. Again, I'm not sure how close you want to be following a person through this section.
No, the cutting's not a good place to be door to door. You need to back off because it's one of the big places where there's a pilot because you're so close to the car that you literally don't have any time to react if there's any sort of incident.
Jaden gets so close to Kurt in this section,
Yes.
and he just sticks with him very nicely. My goodness.
You can notice Moss is being very smooth and tangent based. Jaden is right angle.
Yeah, Jaden's
Turn,
like, he just
right
tapped
angle.
the wall right
Turn,
there.
right angle. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a moment there coming out of Forrest's elbow with the wall, but still very close to Kurt Moss's Jaden Harrison. And Mitchen has already cleared Nathan by a full second and change.
This is 13 seconds to go in the race, so this will be lap +1.
Yep, so there's
Oh, it's
one
over.
lap
Oh my
to go.
God.
There's one lap to go.
Is
after-
it? Is it?
Well, not here. Not here. Yes.
Took a
Okay.
look right there. Took a look right there.
My goodness.
If you want to make the race, towards Evangria right now, you take out the race leader
Yeah.
on the final lap.
he'd be
They will throw the book at you, the literal book at you. So
And so we are on the final lap, and we are on board with this thrilling battle between Jaden Harrison and Kurt Moss.
You know,
So
as much
our prediction that Moss would have just have run away with it, clearly not.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I mean, as much as Jane is being very aggressive and a bit haphazard, I am thrilled to see that he is more than keeping pace
Yes.
with Moss.
Absolutely, this has been a very, dare I say, eventful race overall.
Was there some kind of okay? So let's see. He's got the fastest lap.
Yeah.
So he's gonna get himself a nice extra
Yep,
point.
that is an additional point, and he is looking.
Whoa!
And they're gonna. Oh my goodness!
Stop. Nice, let him.
He's gotta back off.
Let
there.
him go.
He's gotta back
Let
off.
him
there.
go.
He's gotta.
And he does give that
Okay.
position
All
back,
right. All right.
and we go
There
racing
we go.
again.
You're talking about trying to pass in the cutting.
Yeah.
That's not a spot.
To be fair, I don't know what it's like, but it seemed as if Moss braked a little. I don't know if it
I
was earlier
think Moss
hard.
might have. No, I think Moss had an issue there. Maybe got a little bit squirrely on the exit.
Oh, okay.
And,
Yeah.
and Jaden would have expecting him. And this is what I mean about following too closely in this section of the
Yeah.
track. Any slight mistake is going to be an instant incident if you are that close to the driver ahead of you. You just kind of give them a little room to work and then hope you can get closer on the exit. But Jaden looks to be right with Kurt here on the exit of Forrest Elbow on the run down Conrad Straight.
Oh, Mitchell. I mean,
And Mitchell in the shot there in the background. Just 5 seconds adrift.
Shows you how good Mitchen is.
Yes.
We've given the opportunity. He was able to work his way back up through the traffic, back onto the podium. So we know what he's capable of. It's just if Lady Luck just puts her
Gives Mitchell a chance.
puts her butt in his car and stays with him for an entire race.
So we have, this is the last lap now.
Yep.
Yes.
So Kurt takes the
Oh,
checkered
it's
flag
finished.
with Jaden
Oh,
right on his tail,
There we go.
and Mitchen will come.
That
home
was a
to
race.
take third position.
I am.
That
My
was-
heart's still pounding.
That was definitely an event and a good result for Mitchen Wallace on merit, and will actually probably be second position when all is said and done.
I'm sure the stewards they're gonna have field day
Under
with
5 seconds as well. So you may just be correct because that penalty doesn't seem to be a 2 second,
Yeah,
1 second.
it's gonna be. It's the stewards are gonna go. Oh, here's the book. Whoop. So, you know, and I know the rule book's the size of a phone book. So,
Absolutely, but yeah, a great race thus far, and we have 3 drivers to come home to take the checkered flag. They're in the last section of the track. Mr. Kelvin Ropo, Kimani Eastman,
this
and
Mr. Moss.
Mark Anthony Eaton.
So that's.
I'm sure Mark will not be pleased given the state of things, but
92.
that is motor racing, ladies and gentlemen.
Jaden Harrison.
So, as we are preparing to go racing again, we are reminding you, the fans, that there is a sprint race still to come. And the sprint race will be reverse grid from the finishing positions of the main race. So, Mark Anthony Eaton will be starting on pole in the sprint race, with Kurt Moss starting from last position. And as we get that grid set up, we will just have a brief analysis of all that has happened in the race thus far. I think some of the incidents that have
Is fourth.
So as the drivers return to the pits, some key points to talk about coming out of that race: the potential for Jaden's penalty, as well as
Well, okay, so let's run through the point standing as theoretically at this point in time. Kurt Moss would jump to 117 points. Jaden Harrison would still be in second with 89 points. Mark Anthony would still be in third at 65 points. Eastman would still be in fourth with 56 points. Roper would be still in, that's fifth at 53, and Wallace would still be in sixth at 51. Nathan would jump up to seventh with 21 points. And that's
And,
just at the
well,
end of
there-
that's not figuring any penalties at this point.
right. So I was gonna say that there are some asterisks in that point standing.
Yeah, so yeah, we're definitely gonna. That's it. There's gonna be some visitation to the stewards' room, and I expect that. Yeah. So just a point standing right now. The funny thing is, after all that, everybody is still staying.
Still what?
Everybody stayed exactly where they were. The only person that's moved up is Nathan.
Well, still more racing to come, as we do have the sprint in a few minutes' time, and the sprint itself will lend itself to another set of points on offer.
It's gonna be a knockout drag-out race at this point.
And so it will be a 15-minute sprint that's going to give us about 7, 8 laps of racing.
I think a lot of the drivers have smelled the blood in the water, despite the points disparity, and they know who and who they can kill on the beach. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting 15-minute race.
Well, all in all, so what basically just happened is Kurt Moss has checked out even further ahead of everybody.
But
And I think you will find that
once again, was he that fast, or was it that everybody else behind him keeps messing up? they keep
Well,
making mistakes.
this-
Because Brian had this race packed down like a, you know,
Suitcase.
like a suitcase.
Well, he
Like a
certainly
suitcase on the Air Jamaica.
well, he certainly made some mistakes that might have lent to. Sorry, drivers around him certainly made some mistakes that might have lent to him getting that victory, but he himself was guilty of a few mistakes. Point being, he still found himself on the top step of the podium and is even now further ahead. But what you will find is that the drivers behind him are now that much closer together. are now that much closer together in terms of their overall point standings, because Eaton would have lost points to the drivers ahead of him, and Harrison, with that asterisk still next to his name, might also find himself in the mix of that middle of the order run. So although the point standings stay as they are, the gaps and the deficits have definitely dwindled to some of the drivers ahead in the pack. So we will see when all is said and done, when the stewards have done their investigations and when all of the incidents have taken place, what the overall point standings are. Now, given that we are entering the sprint and Eaton having had, dare I say, I mean, I think with all the luck he has had so far in this series, it was bound to run out at some point. It's unfortunate that it ran out in such spectacular fashion. But I am sure he will be looking to capitalize on the pole position for the sprint event and make use of that advantage in trying to maximize the number of points that he can take away from this event,
So
given the happenings thus far.
15 minutes, it's a more compressed format. The drivers don't have any room for any errors at this point. You make an error now, you're not going to come back.
Definitely
There's no
not.
time for you to.
Well,
to
on that point, I was just about to ask the gentlemen. Know that Jane is at the back of the grid, and he is alongside Mitchen, who we know is fast, and Moss, who is fast, and he's aware of the penalty. Do you think there's gonna be even more aggression come sprint time?
Oh, I'm Red Bull.
Well-
The horns are up.
I am sure we will see action unfold.
But the other point is that you don't want to enrage the stewards even more by driving like a maniac.
No, but I mean, for his sake, depending on, well, I don't know. If he doesn't
I
get it
do
right,
get-
it's gonna work against him.
I do get where you're coming from in that if he is going to be losing points to some of the competitors around him,
Yeah.
you want to maximize the points you take away from the sprint. But in order to do so, he has to try and do so in a very safe and concise manner. And given the aggression that we've seen him show all evening, I'm not sure what to expect from him in the sprint race. And just to clarify, for the sprint race, you earn a maximum of 8 points for victory, all the way down to 1 point for finishing in 8th position. But as there are 7 drivers, you will find that we go from 8 to 2 points. As we are getting ready to get going for the sprint race, there is just a brief pause between sessions to ensure that everybody is able to connect and get back into the room. Whilst we are doing so, we will take a brief moment to await the start of the sprint.
Without any.
So, gentlemen, as we are about to move into the sprint race, we are just waiting on the session to tick over. I expect that we will be seeing some levels of aggression. Now, this benefits Eaton in a way, as Eaton can safely check out in first position, whilst the drivers behind have to contend with the traffic of the slower drivers who are now ahead of you on track. So you will find that this could be Eaton's chance to gain back some points in this competition. And even with the possibility of other incidents taking place, whilst the other drivers, the Mosses, the Wallace, and the Harrisons, try to make up positions, I mean...
Yeah, so the key here is now, can Eastman and Roper hold off what will be a charging pack of Brian, Wallace, Harrison, and Moss? And how long can they hold them off?
And how cleanly can they hold them off as well?
For Eaton to squeeze through.
Absolutely. So we will see what unfolds as the sprint gets
Do we
going.
know what Eaton's fastest time has been? Has he been in the
He
11
has
or
also
12?
done a 2:12.0,
2:12, okay.
based on how the qualifying session went.
So
the practice session, my apologies.
These guys need to hold them up for probably 2 or 3 laps.
Just about. And I don't even think it needs to be that long, because the consistent race pace is somewhere in the 2:12s. So as long as he can do somewhere close to that margin, he should be fine, as long as, they don't get through, as long as those drivers don't get ahead by turn 1. We are taking a look at the Moser livery here once again. Moser, or one of our sponsors here at the JSRA, and we will be having a Moser rig on as a test unit in the center soon enough that you can come in and try, whilst we are also the partner dealers
You're going racing?
of Moser. So we are preparing for the lights to go racing once again for
Okay.
the sprint. And
The mayhem begins.
absolutely, and Eaton will be looking to get away cleanly on the inside there with Kimani Eastman alongside him. And on the run down to Hell Cornell, he takes the line, and it looks clean so far.
Little rub in there, but everything's fine.
Absolutely, and Roper on
Roper
the
up, making
inside
a move on
there,
Eastman.
trying to take the fight to Eaton. And
Wow,
I'm not
you're
sure-
still in the row. You're still in the rows like they were on the
Yeah, no,
on
they
the
are
grid.
2 by 2 going up to Griffin's bed.
Roper trying something on the.
Oh my goodness, and has to bail out of it, and makes contact with another driver there, but it has stayed relatively clean despite
We're going to the
all of
cutting
the
3 by
contact
3,
that was
2
made.
by 2. I don't think that's gonna work. Oh, my God!
It shouldn't work, but it did.
It did.
And Nathan Bryan has already found himself up in 3rd position, making up a few positions. Jaden Harrison right behind him.
Moss in 6th, Wallace in 5th,
Ooh,
Harrison, Jaden Harrison. What
and
happened there? Was
Nathan
that a
having a moment there.
There we go.
Once more.
Little contacty there.
And the stewards will once again have to have a look.
Eastman
at what's
literally
happening.
checking out because he has a nice 2-second gap to 3rd.
And Eaton doing exactly what he needed to do, getting away nicely, and stays ahead of the rest of the pack.
So is the strategy here that we try and get a clean lap in, and then we start after, now that the cars are now in single file, you start working your way through the traffic with your speed and whatever advantage you have.
Well, we'll see if that's possible, because we still have all of the quick drivers together. Nathan Bryan 3rd, Harrison 4th, Wallace 5th, Moss 6th. All of those drivers were consistently low 212s, 211s in the last race, and all have similar pace. It is just a matter of consistency and picking your moment.
Look how far Eastman has gone. Let's see if that gap can be taken out in a lap or 2. Whoa.
Eastman only really 1.4 seconds ahead of Nathan Bryan, so not that far ahead.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot further than it was in the first race.
Fair enough. However, I mean, give that a lap or 2, given the difference in pace, and you'll see a very different scenario here. I imagine by the time we get to the end of the S's, there'll be a very different look as Kurt Moss having
What happened
yet
there?
more incidents.
Wow.
It's just not his day.
Not his day.
That 2-hour race this morning really might have taken more out of him than we thought. However, Moss,
So we know one thing that has to happen is that on the Saturday of peak performance, you can't do any of the racing. You have to be you have to come into this race with a
fresh as
clean
a daisy.
slate.
Absolutely. It
It's
is
not something this is not a race you can just cruise through like everything else. You have to come here with your best in display.
absolutely. And Kimani Eastman playing a very good buffer for Mark Anthony Eaton, who has checked out 2.5 seconds in the lead. And the fight behind Eastman, Jaden Harrison now to have a go next, as Nathan Bryan made a mistake there, gifting Jaden third position. So we'll see if Jaden takes the fight to Kimani ahead of him. Some time was lost though, as Kimani now has back a 2-second advantage to these rivals behind. So maybe there's something to be said for the battling that takes place in terms of how that.
So Mitchell has some respite. Kurt Moss is no longer near him, so he just needs to focus on Brian.
Absolutely.
And take the fight to try and get up to.
Roper had an incident there putting Moss back in 6th position, but I think given the nature of this race and with only 10 minutes to go, that might be as high as we see Moss, unless some other incident up the road creates yet more drama.
That's a huge
as
gap
very
to Wallace
possible.
right there, but we know that he can do 211s. So let's see how many 211s he can do to.
So from 3rd to 6th is covered by about 2-ish seconds. So there's about a second between each of these drivers. And the times aren't coming at the moment. Those were not very representative lap times for these three drivers, 2:14s and 2:15s, which is not usually the pace that we see from these drivers. But Jaden Harrison,
Yeah, I was saying Wallace is closing on Brian.
absolutely, they're about 6 tenths between these two drivers, and Harrison ahead is about 9 tenths to Kimani Eastman in 2nd position. So the fight might be on for 2nd place, but Eaton doing everything he needs to do to secure the sprint victory, despite all of the unfoldings of the race, of the main race.
The 4-leaf clover has been bolted back into the passenger seat.
I mean, whatever ritual he forgot to do this morning, he definitely needs to remember that ritual and get it back into his practices on race day.
This might have worked out back to his advantage. You know, he's still, when we do the points, he would still probably not drop as far back as he felt it. You know, because again, this is the strategy. You know, again, yes, you'll lose some points, but you're gaining a nice chunk of points in the sprint race. He just needs to ensure that Lady Luck stays with him. We have Wallace and Brian who are fighting it out.
And Harrison ahead is closer still to Kimani Eastman and might be looking to get that move done by the end of this lap. I don't imagine you want to be caught up behind Kimani going through Sector 2, as that is where I imagine Kimani doing.
Well, are we going to see a lapse in judgment on the part of Harrison here again, where he's going to try some sort of crazy move that and further annoy the stewards, or is he just going to?
Nathan there had another event and has gifted Mitch and Wallace 4th position.
Here we go. So we've got 8 minutes.
May have been contact between Mitchen and Nathan, as Mitchen has also fallen away from Jaden ahead.
Is he waiting for him to come back and pass?
He is not. However, I'm sure whatever is
Eastman
necessary.
and what is going on here? So we have Harrison trying to pass Eastman for 2nd. That's not the line going into that. I don't think. Okay. All right. Got it.
That has somehow worked. So Jaden
To be young and
takes
aggressive.
Absolutely. And Jaden Harrison takes second position.
Congrats to Eastman to have held him off that long. Now he's got to deal with Wallace.
And yeah, Mitch and Wallace will be the next on offer to try and take that fight to Kimani Eastman for third position here in the sprint race. But Jaden Harrison closing up very quickly to Mark Anthony Eaton. That gap is now down to 2 seconds already. A second and a half, actually. At 1.3 seconds at this stage of the event. And right with him, something seems to be going on with
Yes.
Mark
Seems
Anthony
like Mark's
Eaton.
having some issues. Ooh, out. There we go. Harrison's in the lead.
And Jaden Harrison has been gifted the lead of the race. I'm not
Eaton has
sure
fallen to
what
fourth.
has taken place there with Mark Anthony Eaton yet again. So I'm
Yes,
sure
we'll have
we will
a
be
talk here.
talking to the personnel after the race to see what has happened.
So is Eastman able to hold off Wallace here?
And a charging Wallace is now taking the fight to Kimani Eastman, and Eaton has had a spin behind. I'm not sure. I mean, this has been a strange event, but Moss now finds
maybe
himself
I'm the
in
good
fifth
one now.
position.
Lady Luck wasn't
Oh my
in the
goodness.
passenger seat. Kurt Moss is turning in the fastest lap, but in the sprint race, there's no points for fastest lap. So, but
And-
clearly he's trying to do his best to get as far as possible. And so Mark Anthony's in the pits.
I think that's his race
Yeah,
done.
not his
1-4,
race.
and
Unfortunately.
it's been a rough evening for Mark here.
Yes, it's just one of those days where things just don't go your way.
That is a rather
But, as I
unfortunate
said,
sequence of events for the weekend.
Yeah, but as I said, I don't think it's done yet. We still have a whole bunch of points on hand, and he's shown he has the pace. I think everybody's going to have one of these, well, other than Mitchin, who's been having them every event. But yeah, it's sorry.
So Mitch and Wallace here, right with Kimani Eastman as we start the S's, and
So we literally have probably about 2 laps, so he has 2 more chances to try and figure this out. Can Eastman hold off Wallace?
we will see in a matter of minutes as he looks to have the run
That's a
here
very interesting
coming out of
place to,
Forest's elbow.
that's a very interesting place to pass, but he gets it done.
And that move, job done, second position.
Can he
And-
come back up? Yes, he does. Kudos to Eastman for actually taking the correct line. Okay. Now, do we have a mistake there, but do we have the speed to get up to Harrison at this point?
I think Jaden checked out 3 seconds ahead already. I think that might be race done because with 1, maybe 2 laps to go, well, 2, maybe 3 laps to go actually, because there is end of race plus 1 lap. So I think it should be a comfortable victory here for Jaden, barring any mistakes. But Mitchell now should be able to.
Kurt again turning in the fastest lap. He's doing everything to squeeze as much as he can up into the points.
I think
And could actually get to Nathan Bryan here. Actually, he's just a second and a half adrift. Well, actually closer to 2 seconds, over 2 seconds, my apologies, away from Nathan Bryan. But given the lap times that he is putting in, he could find himself on Nathan's rear wing by the time we get to the end of this race. And does that then add a bit of pressure to Nathan Bryan, who has made a few mistakes here this evening in terms of seeing Kurt in your rearview mirrors?
I mean,
Andrew, you've been
it's
suspiciously quiet.
added pressure, but I think his main focus is himself. His main pressure is himself because, as you know, The consistency just isn't there at the moment. But as you were saying, between Wallace and Eastman, Wallace has the opportunity now, barring a mistake from Jaden, or actually, a mistake happening. He has the opportunity to pull away from Eastman to, try and get first position.
And this is a
Because
good
he's
race for
fast.
Eastman. He'll be on the podium. Some nice points.
So it seems as Nathan Bryan not making the kind of inroads it would take to get to Kimani by the end of this race. And I think we might be looking at the grid order for the finishing position for the end of the race. But Jane Harrison putting every stop into getting the sprint win to kind of alleviate some of the penalties that we are anticipating might be coming his way, depending on how the stewards find the events that have taken place. Mitch Wallace, who had a tale of two halves in the first race, I mean, found himself getting punted down the order and now finds himself sitting in second position in the sprint race, having gotten a podium in the first race despite all of the incidents that took place.
And possibly second in the
Main race,
race,
well,
yeah, as well, as
depending
you
on
said.
how those penalties work out. Nathan Bryan, a rough weekend for Nathan, I think, so far, because, I mean, he, for the first 30 minutes of the main race, sitting comfortably in first position, doing everything right, made all the correct steps and strides, and then it just all came undone in the last 15 minutes. I mean, as mentioned, the concentration required around this track, nothing to scoff at, but maybe just did not have it for the second half of that race.
Honestly, I thought initially had a 3-second gap, right? Okay, I can understand where you're probably under some stress, so you're trying to maintain that gap as best as possible. When you reach 10, I honestly thought he would have taken the opportunity to, just go easier. Sacrifice, I don't know, half a second a lap, if that much, and then worry probably towards the end, but I think he was putting too much pressure on himself too early.
Okay, so here are the points predictions based on not the penalties, if any, applied. So our Mr. Moss would be at 121. Jaden would now be at 97. Mark Anthony would be at 67. Manny Eastman is still close at 62. Mitchin would move into fifth at 58. And Roper would drop down at 56. Brian would only move up to, he would remain at 7th with 26.
So,
Again,
lots of
and that's until if penalties, if any. I don't think any penalties will be applied in the sprint race, but I'm sure the main race, which was as eventful as anything else in this world, we're definitely going to see some shuffling here. But
Moss with another fastest lap of the event, a 2:12.0, and he is actually right with Kimani Eastman, and the leader is on the final lap of the race.
So-
Nathan Bryan, my apologies.
do you think he's going to make it to pass Nathan?
It looked like he did lose some advantage there, running wide on turn one. So, barring a mistake from Nathan ahead, I think this might be the finishing position. But anything can happen around this track, and with more than half a lap to go before the end of the race,
What
we
just
could
happened
see.
here? Moss going down. Did he have a spin contact with Brian?
No, I think that was just a glitch in the system.
Okay,
He was
I
not
wondering.
anywhere near
No, he just
Nathan.
Oh, it's just
for that
updated.
event.
Okay,
Yeah.
because he's been up behind him.
But the gap is closing to Nathan ahead, as it is almost now just about a second. So if Moss can get close enough before the end of this lap,
He would have to pass him. The only good passing space is Conrad Strait. So,
Indeed. So you'd have to get right with him by the time he gets through Forest Elbow.
I mean, you could, if you're fast enough, go through Murray's, but you'd have to have the right line.
Absolutely. So we are coming towards
It's just updating.
yeah about 8 tenths here as they do come through Forest elbow on the rundown to Conrad straight, on the rundown Conrad straight, my apologies. And Moss not close enough, I think, to get this move done by the time we get to the checkered flag. And I think we will be resigned.
Pull a Spence and just use him as your break.
Well, I mean, Barry, I was just about to say, you see? I was just about to say, this corner.
Yep, that's the end of Kurt's race there. What could have been... Wait, Nathan Bryan found himself in third there as Kimani Eastman seemed to have had an incident at the line there.
Wow. Unfortunate, he was on for a podium finish. Don't know what happened there, but...
And Moss will come home in fifth. A sprint race to forget for Kurt Moss, but my God. I guess showing that maybe the superhuman abilities that we thought he had might not be as we thought.
And, you know, and I said it at the beginning of the broadcast, that my theory is that it's not that I think Kurt isn't fast. I think the other drivers need to step up and understand what it takes to beat him. And I've seen that they can. They're able to bring themselves up to the lap times that are necessary to be competitive and stay with it.
Okay.
Will this translate next forward to the next circuit? Not sure. But again, the situation is the points, don't give up.
Well, it may just translate because the level of difficulty of the track, unless it is that Kurt, you know, does worse on closer, narrower tracks than he does on open tracks. However, if this is to be used as any marker for the following race, 3-4 drivers really maintaining speed, so it may just translate.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting, and it's always been interesting, to say the least. The belief that everybody's going to run away with it, I think we need to just kill that. I mean, right now, this is top-level sim racing. Everybody's stepping up their game because they realize what's at stake here, and I can only, again, congratulate everybody for putting in an amazing race. Sorry, you're about to say?
Absolutely, and it has been an event to remember. I mean, we aren't short of talking points in this event, and I mean, one of them is Mark Anthony Eaton having some issues here this evening that resulted in a less than favorable result, to say the least. Taking it in good spirits, it seems, but you know, that could have been. I guess you're looking at what could have been now as opposed to the end result. Overall, lots for the stewards to go over in the aftermath of both the main race and the sprint race. But for the moment, we will move on to a bit of fun for the chat. We do have a coupon for a free pizza on offer from Domino's, and we will choose the winner based on a question. If you can tell us who got the fastest lap and on what lap did they get the fastest lap, they will, in the main race, my apologies, the first person to give the correct answer will win a free Domino's pizza coupon. And if you are unable to provide the answer in chat right now, feel free to DM us on Instagram if the stream ends and we do not get the correct answer. So if you provide the answer in a DM to the JSRA on Instagram, and you are the first person to do so, if we do not get the answer in chat.
Is this open to? No. Okay. Just you know.
I'm also going to apologize that snack time did not appear this week. There was a technical difficulty with what I was trying to arrange, but our next event at Donington, I can assure you snack time will be back.
Absolutely, we look forward to that. Sounds like we have we have things to look forward to come Donington Park, which is the next event in the Peak Performance series. But in between then and now, we also have Chase O Pace next week, also at Donington Park, but with a twist. El Presidente has been playing with dynamic track conditions on the servers, and we will be getting a race that could have both rain and sunshine. So we could get a wet-dry transition race or a dry-wet transition race. We never know. So if you are looking for some excitement,
Well, rain would be good, but I must say the Copa del Caribe race, the finale was at Spa at night, and that looked terrifying.
that was an exciting race as well.
That was a terrifying looking race. So, gentlemen, your race wrap up. What do you think? Where do we go from here? You can speak now, Andrew. You have the floor. The race is gone.
I mean, as you said, the standings haven't changed much, even though the race didn't seem as if that would have been the case. But on it, not a good race for Moss. Chad said something earlier. I'm not sure what it was, but things happen. Things definitely happen. Jaden was definitely on the attack this race. Ranko.
Almost too much on the attack, I would say. We will finish that wrap up, but we're gonna have a brief interview with Mark Anthony Eaton, given the state of things. Good evening.
Hello.
Dare I say, not what we were hoping to see this evening.
It had potential. Equipment kind of failed me on this one, but it had potential. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, when it happened in the main race, at that point you were sitting in, I think, 5th position, with, I think, drivers ahead of you needing to pit, which would have put you, I think, net P3.
Yeah.
So a net P3 lost.
I think it would have been a little more than that because the strategy we had chosen today, the car had about second or two more a lap to get. So I genuinely think we could have gotten second at least.
Unfortunate turn of events, but I mean, we can't too much dwell on the past here. So still sitting third. We will see how things unfold for Jaden, who might have a penalty coming his way, depending on how the stewards look on the events that happened in the main race. But that being said, any strategies going forward? 3 rounds to go. You are sitting in third.
YOLO. That's the simplest answer there. We'll see what happens. Donington is an interesting track. Last time we drove on it was relatively quick. Still new, so I had a lot of mistakes in it. But I look forward to Donington. I look forward to Catalonia, and Interlagos. All 3 tracks are really fun to drive. So we'll see how it goes from there.
Okay. Again, I mean, you've had serious luck in this series thus far, so it just happened to all run out today at once.
What goes around comes around. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're unlucky.
Yeah, no, it is an unfortunate result, but we do hope to see you bounce back from this, and hopefully the next 3 rounds the luck finds you again. So good talking to you, and thanks for joining us. So as we are coming to the end of the broadcast here, I'm just making sure that we don't have any other drivers coming in for interviews whilst we await confirmation of that. Just okay. So I think we won't be doing much else in terms of interviews. However, again, eventful.
An eventful night of racing.
Excitement all around. Having spoken to Eaton there, doesn't seem too disheartened by the affairs of the evening, but I'm sure thinking about the points that he might have lost in the event, always unfortunate that these things happen. Moss still found himself on the top step of the main race.
The Pokemon on top.
No man.
Moss still found himself on the top step of the main race, but really had a struggling go of the sprint. So all in all, we are now seeing that Kurt Moss is not. So I do see an answer to the question in the chat. We will confirm that we accept it in that format as that is 7 laps before the end, as opposed to telling us the lap number. However, we will read the rules and clarify any technicalities.
The stewards have to look at that.
Yeah, no, the stewards will take a look at that one, and we will reach out to you separately for after the stream in order to discuss you claiming that prize. But yeah, so that is round 4 done. 3 rounds to go, and still a very exciting championship on our hands. Kurt Moss has extended his lead overall, but has shown that he is human after all.
Yes.
Not the alien that we thought he was.
And as I said at the beginning, I realized from the previous event that once the other drivers have stepped their games up, they've realized how serious this is. They realize how fast they need to be, and how good they need to be. So
And how good they can be.
how good they can be. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking. This has been an amazing event. It's, as I said, it's like a deck of cards. Just keep shuffling. There at no point can you freely figure out who's going to win, but everybody is still relatively within a mathematical play.
Yep.
Except maybe Brian.
So yeah, no.
Yeah, you know, I'm just kidding. But they're still mathematically viable here. So at the end of the day, I just thank everybody for watching.
Absolutely.
It's going to be Donington in 2 weeks. Again, I'll be here. I make every effort to be here because this is the best sim racing series in Jamaica, one of the most competitive in the region.
Definitely.
Enjoy every second, not just because I'm on the broadcast team enjoying my time 2.5 hours with you guys, but just watching the race.
No, absolutely. It is a race that does lend itself to excitement. So this is where we will wrap up our stream for the evening. Once again, thank you for joining us. Andrew, any final thoughts before we go?
I mean, Mission came third, so that's a plus.
You broke the curse.
Yeah. I'm being cautious, but yeah, eventful race. Couple of incidents. Jaden unhinged a bit, but the reason why I keep thinking about it was because we've seen the progression where he started out very aggressive and then he calmed down, and then this race, yes, it's just back. So I'm not sure what the reason is, but next race.
Absolutely. So once again, folks, thank you for joining us this evening, and we will see you Chase Up Pace next week, Peak Performance the week after that. Lots of racing action in between. Stay tuned to our socials to see the full calendar of what is to come. Thank you.
And the results as well.
And the results of all protests and overall point standings for the event. So thanks again for joining us, folks, and we hope to see you again soon. Good evening.
Good evening.
What do we?